Hey, and welcome to Leadershipisation, all things leadership. My name is Beth Bergen, and I am a global leadership and communication coach. I'm all about building influence. So I work with executives and managers and business owners to help them to build their influence through powerful leadership and communication. And it's all about having them build that influence so that they can lead cohesive teams, they can manage and drive the results, and so that they can also increase their own visibility in their organization, but also potentially in the sector that they work in. And I am here live most Tuesdays at 1 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time. Now, we've just changed over to daylight saving in lots of places. So it's 1 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time, which is Brisbane, or 2 p.m. Australian Eastern Daylight Time, which is Sydney or Melbourne. Okay, difficult people. Oh, when I say that, what I'm reminded of is that many of our challenges, many of our challenges as leaders come from the people. They come when, whatever our role is, whether we're a leader, a manager, or a business owner, many of our challenges come from people. And if you have ever lost sleep about how to manage your people, then today's leadershipisation is for you. Difficult people generally means difficult conversations. And what we do is we put them off. And so here's 10 kind of do's and don'ts for you about managing difficult conversations. Before we start, there's one key. And this theme will play out through the whole of our conversation today. Do the tricky conversations before they become tough. Have that tricky conversation before it becomes tough. Now, these 10 are in no particular order. One of the things you need to do is to acknowledge people's feelings. Acknowledge their feelings. Show you care. Name what their feelings might be. And this is important because then they feel as though their feelings have been validated. So that's important. It's not about diving straight into criticism or blame or telling people they have no right to feel angry or no right to feel upset. It's actually about simply validating and acknowledging what those feelings are. That's the first thing. The second thing is to manage the 93 percenters. Now, if you've worked with me for a while, you know that we've got that wheel, that communication wheel of how our communication is perceived by others. And 93% of that is your body language or the tone of your voice. So this is really important. You need to be calm, not combative. Calm, not combative. Why? Well, because you're having a conversation, not a confrontation. It's a conversation, and you don't want it to get aggressive. So an even, steady tone, breathing normally. You don't have to talk too loudly or too fast. And it's not about your emotion coming through. So it's not about any frustration, any adrenaline, or any other emotion coming through for you. Manage those 93 percenters. Okay, number 3, do your prep. Do your preparation. You must be prepared, but you also must be prepared to flex whatever you're doing. So write down the key points that you want to cover in your conversation and what potential solutions might be. Now, this is really important because it gives you somewhere to go back to. It's perfectly all right to write these things down. My coaching clients often say to me, oh, I'm not going to write down how I'm going to handle a conversation. Why not? It just serves as simple reminder to you to go back. Now, it's not a scripted meeting. So it's not about, I'm going to say this and then I'm going to say this. Oh, remember this awesome phrase that worked last time? I'll say that one as well. That's not what it is. But it is a checklist that you can run through. The checklist will help to remind you about things like, I want to acknowledge their efforts. I want to acknowledge what they've done and what's been going on here. Yeah. I want to remember to validate their feelings. These are all things that will come up when you do your prep. Be thinking about, what do I want to cover and what is my solution? Number 4, be curious. We talk a lot about curiosity because that's a really important leadership intelligence tool. It's a really important one. So think about those open-ended questions so that you can get their perspective. And this is things like, help me understand what happened. Or, I'm really curious. It seems like there was a lot of conflict going on. And you'll get their perspective. If you ask a lot of loaded questions, then they're likely to get defensive. So a loaded question might be, when you got really angry, were there specific reasons for it? Which is implying that they were really angry, yeah? Or the other thing not to use, rather than an or, the other thing not to use is closed questions. If you can possibly help it, don't ask a closed question. Now, closed question is one that will get a yes or no or some other one-word answer to it. So, how was your day? Good. People then tell you nothing else. And so you get poor information. So in your prep, start thinking about, what are some curious questions that I can be asking that will encourage deep responses, which will enhance my understanding of the situation. Okay. Number 5, listen for understanding. Listen for understanding. So this is that full attention that we talk about. This is the engaged learning. It's engaged listening. So that full attention, your eyes, looking at them, nodding your head, mirroring what they say, mirroring, asking appropriate questions, feeding back the sorts of things that they're asking you. So not distracted. When what you're doing is listening for understanding, then you're able to validate their perspective, even if you don't agree with it. You say, well, yeah, okay, I understand that. Saying those kinds of things doesn't mean that you necessarily agree. And when you listen deeply, when you listen for understanding, you're actually addressing and hearing their concerns rather than just kind of dismissing them. Yeah? Okay, number 6, we're up to. Manage your own emotions. Now, sometimes in a difficult conversation, we're thinking, how am I going to manage them? I've seen them get really aggro. How will I manage them? And we can often forget about our own emotional regulation. So what's important is that you're watching out for your emotions as well, because if you can manage yours, then it's going to be a little easier to de-escalate the other person if you need to. So acknowledge your own feelings and make sure that you're managing those. In your communication, be clear and direct. So don't get into a situation where you're trying to justify the things that you're saying or soften them a whole lot to make them feel better. You know, sometimes what we do in these situations is we give lots of fake praise. We tell them all these good things because we think that it will soften the criticism. Don't do the fake praise thing if it's not actually, if it doesn't deserve to be said. So that clearness and that directness. So, you know, you don't want to allow them to be the victim, and recognize that using guilt isn't actually going to influence the person that you're talking to. In fact, it might actually make them a whole heap more annoyed. From your perspective, make sure that you are responding to what they're saying rather than reacting. Now, when we're in difficult conversations with people, they often want to hit back. And when they hit back, that's when we've got to be really clear about managing our own emotions. So if someone is having a go or attacking you, make sure that you take some breaths so that you can respond rather than actually reacting to what they're saying. And as I said before, no, don't run with the fake praise because you think that that's going to make them feel better when you tell them what you're not so happy with. Okay? So that's number 6, managing your emotions. Number 7 is about developing solutions and boundaries. Develop solutions and boundaries. Now, I've paired these two together for a specific reason. Often we come up with a solution, and what we then forget to do is to put the boundaries around it. And so the interpretation of that solution with the person that we're talking to can get all twisted out of shape. So it's important that you develop that solution, that you find that way forward, that you're clear about what you want or what you can and what you can't deliver and why that is. And that's where your boundaries come in. Yeah? The boundaries help to hold the person accountable because you've got a whole lot of clarity about what you want. The conversation hasn't ended until a solution has at least been suggested. Now, you might not get to the solution in the first conversation, and that's okay, but you have to be sending the person away from the conversation, or you have to be stepping away from the conversation really clear about, hey, this was one suggestion for us to work with. Go away and think about that and come back and we'll work on it some more. Okay? No promises. Don't make promises that you cannot keep. Don't make promises at all that you cannot keep. And don't put yourself in a situation where you end up saying yes to something because you feel guilty that the other person has been impacted by whatever has happened. Yeah? Just watch out for those two things. So we're nearly at the end. Number 8, own your part. Own your part in what's going on. Make sure that you acknowledge your own mistakes, the mistakes that you may have made. Perhaps you haven't paid as much attention to the issue as you could have. Perhaps the staff member was acting outside their delegation. Perhaps they were acting outside their authority. So acknowledge your mistakes and acknowledge how you might be prepared to fix those in the future. Be authentic about this. Mean it. It's not about you saying all of this stuff, going, oh yeah, well, yeah, this is what really happened and I'm sorry about that. Be authentic and really mean what it is that you're saying Because if whoever you're talking to can hear that you're authentic, they're more likely to be coming to or to be stepping towards a solution with you. Okay. Number 9, have a really clear next step. Have a really clear next step. So this comes back to what I was saying earlier about your planning. It's all about you thinking, okay, where do we want to get to? And once you've got to that, be really clear that these are the next steps. This is what we're going to do next, and this is how we're going to follow that up. So if what happens is that you need to be holding someone accountable, you've got that. You've had that conversation early. Don't leave things really vague and unresolved, because the person goes out there and there's nothing you can do to hold them accountable if you haven't given them clarity around what it is that they're going to be doing. So make sure that you've agreed on those actions and what the follow-ups are. So the actions might be that you're going to do these 3 things, they're going to go away and do those 4 things, and you'll meet again in 2 weeks' time to see exactly where everyone's sitting and whether there's been an improvement. Yeah? Be really clear about it. Also here, make sure that what you're doing is saying thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for taking part in the conversation. And thank you for wanting to be part of a solution moving forward. Thank you goes a really long way. So I encourage you a whole lot to use thank you, not just here, but in a lot of your communication as a leader with your team, with your peers, and with those upwards in your organization. Finally, self-reflection. Number 10, self-reflection. And this is where you're looking at what went well, what didn't go so well, what could you improve, and what valuable lesson did you learn? Now, you're not doing this self-reflection with the other person sitting there. You've finished the conversation, you've had that clear next step, and off they've gone. You're here and you're reflecting yourself, or what went well, or what didn't go so well, what could I improve, and what valuable lesson did I learn? Why? Because if there's no reflection, you're likely to go into the next difficult conversation making the same mistakes that you may have made in this one. Now, I don't care how many difficult conversations you've had, there's always that 1% room for improvement. So take the time and give yourself time for that valuable self-reflection. No reflection, make the same mistakes. So in summary, tricky conversations before they get tough. Have conversations before they become confrontations. That active listening, that curiosity, offer the solution, be focused, set the boundaries, follow up, and have that reflection. Let me know how you go with your next difficult conversation based on what we've talked about here. Thank you so much. If you've got questions and comments, pop them in the platform that you're watching this on, and we will get back to you. If you're watching a replay, #replay would be wonderful. We'll reach out to you and let you know that we appreciate your comments and your questions. Now, I've been talking today all about difficult conversations. And this is one of the things that we have a look at in my 30-day Say It Smarter program. This is where what we do is work together to develop a tailored plan that aligns your people with the performance that you want from them. So it's all about building that rapid rapport, all about building that team cohesion, and all about identifying different communication styles so that you understand them a whole heap better and you're able to work with them. 30 days, small group coaching program with no more than 8 people in it. If you're interested and you'd like to know more, use the link that will be provided to book a call. Make a note that it's a Say It Smarter conversation, and I'll talk to you about what you can do to become a much more influential communicator. See you next week. Bye now.